Yeah, that's not fair.
Yeah, the definitely weighs pretty high on it, so.
But I also agree with you that let's strike the strategic plan, and then if we want to add it back on at the end of the meeting.
We do have an option.
Well, I would just, in that case, I wouldn't strike it, I would just leave it at the end like it is, and we either do it or we don't when we get there.
Agreed.
Bruce, how long do you need for the overview for us?
2 minutes.
12 minutes?
What, 2?
Oh, okay, 12 minutes, that's an oddly specific time. Okay, yeah,
I was going to give a spiel, it would be essentially the same thing that I said along with Ryan at our previous appearance. How we did everything, the protocol we went through. The only difference is, instead of the sites that the commission came up with, we did it with the ones that are in the current town plan.
Oh, okay. We'll jump into that right when we get there then. So about 15 minutes on that sound good to everybody?
I think we'll leave it to 10, and I think Bruce says he can do it in 2, and that'll be terrific.
Awesome. All right, any other adjustments to the agenda for agenda review? Hearing none, moving on to comments from citizens regarding items not on the agenda. Anybody? Rika, online?
I always forget which button to push to do that electronically. I was wondering, is there anything in our bylaws that enables us to have some say in terms of what kinds of businesses come into Weathersfield? And what I'm thinking of primarily is like chain stores, whether it's the dollar store or what's the coffee place, Starbucks, or, they don't really contribute anything economically to the town besides the property taxes, but, they're not probably going to be the property owners. And the town plan, it seems, my understanding is that that's sort of developing, what do we want this town to look like in the future? And we all know that this town had a major amputation when the interstate went in and exit 8 just, amputated a whole, just the beautiful end of Ascutney Village, the green, I think there was a gazebo, there was a tea house, it was a, pedestrian friendly and a little bit more quaint Vermont than other sections of town, other sections of other towns. Do we have any control in there? Is that something that already exists in our bylaws or zoning laws? Is it something that should be included in the long range plan? Not something that needs to be hashed out tonight necessarily, but I just want to float it out there as, is this something we should be thinking about?
First of all, I love having comments coming on this section right here that are not on the agenda, so thank you for voicing those. Brian, I believe you had something.
So I'd like to respond to you that because I think we should just delay this discussion because we're going to review the individual sections of the town plan, and under economic development tonight, if you read through that section, they do talk about encouraging business and some other things, and I have some thoughts on that too, that I think I'd like to delay that until we get to that section.
Lovely, good. I obviously didn't read that part.
Because I remember seeing some stuff in that chapter as well, kind of echoing off of what you were just stating.
Yeah, just to move things along.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other comments from citizens regarding items not on the agenda? Moving on to...
Mr. Chairman, I have one comment about the agenda in general.
Sure.
Thinking back to the last meeting we all attended where we had the scenic resources on the agenda, and then I think Mr. Murray spent a lot of time talking about things. I got the sense that he was a little surprised and thought we were going to vote on it that night. And I'm just wondering, when we do our agendas, if we have a new topic on the agenda, say scenic resources, that we should say draft or draft review for discussion. I mean, we may end up voting on it, but at least it should say initial review, and then possibly on the submission, like we've done on a lot of other things, we put draft or mark draft across things. And I think that might take some of the anxiety out of people getting worried about, oh my God, what's going on? It's nice that they call, but
Mike, go ahead.
Perhaps a simpler way to do that is to call anything out that you're going to take action on. And just call, in other words, you have your agenda, but if you know you're going to be voting on certain things, they're going to be moving forward, call them an action item.
yeah, I just worry people don't understand what that is. That's been my experience. They see that and they go, okay, but what about this? Are you guys going to vote on that? And I just thought it said draft or initial submission draft. I'm just trying to think.
Well, if they would come to more meetings, they would understand more.
We're on the same page there, but I was just trying to think of a way for people to, join the discussion in a more.
I like the way that you're bringing that up on there, Brian, for sure, because, discussion versus first reading, second reading, third reading, I think it is important to have something out there to, help ease the tension for the last thing that we have. We're like, hey, we're not actually voting on this. This is the first thing that we're seeing of it here, so.
Well, we could. There's nobody in opposition to something that's first on the agenda for the very first time. There's no member of the public there, and we all say, gee, this is a really good idea. We could conceivably vote on it.
And it would then go to the select board.
And then it would go to the select board, and everybody would have another crack at it. But I'm just I was thinking back to what August said, this is going to happen. And he had a lot of really great points.
Another thing that I've seen we haven't been doing it recently, and I don't think I've done it with Brandon, but we did it with Jim Mullen at the select board level. When there was going to be an action, the motion was actually included in the agenda or in the packet. So you knew if you went to the agenda, went to the packet, and you read through it, you saw that the motion was the recommended motion was there.
Okay, that's a good idea too.
I think about the only place we see that now is like on purchases and stuff like that, where we've gone through that whole bidding process and RFPs and all that stuff, and we'll, and so Brandon will quite often.
Yeah, I just think that would be a good way to kind of say, hey, this is the first time we've seen this. I'm not taking any action on it. We're just talking about it. So anyway, that's a thought.
I think it's a good idea. I think there's several ways that it could be done. Just figure out how to do it.
Anyway, for food for thought,
Yeah, just because, you didn't have enough on your plate already.
Well, yeah, just need to think about organizing. I think if we either title a draft or title it first review or something, then that's clear that it's the first time we're seeing it. And then if it comes up in the future, then we don't need to keep saying second and third draft or anything like that, but at least the first time that something pops up that's new, it says that it's new.
Yeah, so anyway, I'm just trying to think about how to move things along a little more.
Yeah, new item or discussion or something.
Seamlessly.
I personally like the discussion part of it, because as we're kind of working on the stuff, we are obviously in discussion, but again, whatever's going to be the best way of doing it. Any other comments? Moving on to approval of the meeting minutes for January 5th, 2026. And we don't have any in the packets. Do we have a paper copy?
We don't. So I think, what's her name? Stephanie quit shortly after that meeting, and it didn't occur to me until I started putting this pack together that they hadn't been done. So I was going to ask Patience if she felt comfortable going from the recording from the last meeting to do the minutes. And if not, then either I can do them or the secretary of the board can do them. Whatever. How do you feel about doing that, having not been at the meeting?
Sure.
You don't mind?
Sure.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Patience with a resounding yes, she will do them.
Love that enthusiasm.
Well, I appreciate it. All right, so we're going to table the meeting minutes for January 5th, 2026. Moving on to item number 6, scenic resources update. Bruce, the floor is yours.
I'll give them most of my spiel in the introduction here. I didn't really come to give a presentation. It's, like I said, the same as before. I will address any questions you have. And if you haven't had time to look at what was in the packet, then I think I'll just wait until you have looked at it and have questions.
I mean, I have questions, Bruce, I just haven't had a chance to sit down and really go through because our push has been the town plan, and I really appreciate what you guys have done, and my goal is to ultimately get out and drive and look at these, so I'm become more familiar with what you and how you rated them, so I can see them, so we can have a more robust discussion at some future date.
When you do that, just be aware that this latest iteration we did was the views as described in the town plan.
Yes.
I didn't go out again to the ones in the town plan, and we have, all of those were in our initial Conservation Commission list, but the limits may be a little different.
Okay.
But they are essentially the same.
Awesome. I appreciate that.
Right?
So you have 13 on the list, 12 and 13. Are those are the 13, there are 13 right now in the 2017 town plan?
That's what I counted up.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah, that number sounds big.
Okay.
Reason I thought it was only 6.
Yeah, I had the feeling that it was like 5 or 6 or something like that, but maybe they're called out in different
Well, number
sections.
7 was mentioned at the last meeting, but yeah, if you count them up, it's
All of those are already in there. Okay, got it.
I have a question
Yes, sir.
and I'm sorry that I have not been here for a bit, because we might have covered this already. But, especially with the ranking the ones that are in the town plan, those are in there because they're very important. And if we rank them, then somebody comes out as least important, which seems like so basically we have our 10 nicest views, and the ones at the top are defended by this score, but the ones at the bottom are made vulnerable by their low score in relation to the higher scoring ones, right? And it feels like, especially with this list, and I don't know about because it came from the previous town plan, and we basically kept it the way it was because we felt like, oh, these just seem like important places around town. It feels like adding a score to them will, for the ones that are scored lower, Anyway, does that make sense? I mean, if we're making a list of the top 20 places, maybe we should also have like 20 places that we don't like so much, so that they can.
Well,
I think those
It
are
just
all
feels
sort of
like-
nuances that we need to get into next time it comes around.
yeah.
All right,
Yeah, I think we
great,
just
that's
have
fine.
time.
That just seems like a significant
I mean,
nuance.
I have answers to some of your thoughts,
Excellent,
but I just think that not tonight.
great, that's fine with me.
In regards to this list that's here of the 16, when I go over to the average, the top, they're not in any particular order. Is that safe to assume at this point? They have not, in other words, they
Depends
haven't.
on which table you're looking at.
I'm looking at the raw numerical data, PC summary table 1.
No, PC table
Those
4
are
is
not
the
ranked
one.
in any way.
That's what I'm.
Or those.
Well, the very top one is an average of 74, and you go down like 7, 8, 9, whatever it is, view of the Black River is at 39. So that suggests to me that they're not in order. I just wanted to verify that, okay.
It looks like only table 4 is
Right.
ranked order.
All the tables are the same stuff, chopped up in different ways.
Chopped up in different ways.
Table 2 is ranked.
Right,
Yeah.
table 2 is ranked,
Numerical scores, not personal preference.
right.
Right, gotcha, okay.
Right?
I believe we have a question from all.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Murray?
Hi, this is actually Andrea Murray, and I had a couple of questions or observations. I guess first and foremost is that I requested and reviewed the roadscape guide, which is something that was put out by Vermont. They have several versions of it that guide this process, what it means, how it's done, and how it should be evaluated. One of the important factors in that is that what we're talking about with the scenic resources is that we're talking about
land use, we're talking about property rights. Because now you're going to limit and change what somebody can do with their property if these properties are selected on this list. And so one of the first things that's supposed to be done is that your area is mapped out and to show these are where the scenic areas would be. These are the corridors. There's also obviously public involvement. There needs to be a public meeting to discuss what the town also considers public hearing. The homes that are affected should get a letter, should be notified, because it deeply impacts their Vermont constitutional rights to enjoy their property. And the process, there were no pictures included on how this was done. So on the recent list today, this week's list, I noticed that the 3 types of scenic views were all blended and included. But these are 3 distinct things. A scenic view is different from a corridor, is different from a point where you can actually visit and enjoy. So I don't think that those should all be together. And I did notice that initially my personal property was included from my property line to the end of the road, which includes, I don't know, what is that? 4 properties, 5 properties that are included. Well, that's not a scenic corridor. Because you can see the mountain from there doesn't make it a corridor. And it doesn't make it a essential property view, because one house is nice on the view and they have that same view of a mountain that another place does. So it's really important that we identify these things. There was also not included a GPS point, which is a requirement. If you're going to do a independent view, every single person has to be standing in the same spot to review that spot. And it needs to be viewing each season. If all the trees are grown up, there's nothing to see. Is that really an essential scenic point? But if you look at your list, people changed where they looked at it, they changed where angles it was. Nobody was really looking at the same spot. And so that's not a unbiased or fair assessment of this project. I mean, it's important, but people have land rights are very important also, because this will deeply impact how people can use their land. And it needs to go out to the public before we can really consider these land pieces. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Murray. One second. Bruce?
I'm just wondering one clarification. You're sort of comparing apples and oranges here. The original list that the commission came up with was broken down into corridors, vistas, and scenic areas. This list is directly from the town plan, and in the town plan, they are not so broken down.
Mike?
Andrea, almost everything that you mentioned is exactly what we learned in the very beginning of this several years ago from Annette Smith. And it was in regards to our town plan and the siting of green energy type things, windmills, solar panel systems, generating systems, so that there was some sort of leverage or some sort of, we had some sort of say in where those things went. And that's really what this was all about, this whole thing. Was trying to clarify and get that to work. And she brought up all those points that you did. In fact, I'm not even sure at that point in time some of those things were statutory. There were recommendations from her, because she said basically when you get in front of the PUC, if you don't have that stuff, they're not going to take it. We've got 25 seconds and we're out of time. So I want to wrap up quickly, but we're nowhere near ready to adopt any of this. It's not going to happen in this town plan. This thing's going to probably be at least another year. Is that what we said at the last meeting? Probably before we're anywhere near adopting anything. It's just all kind of coming together now. And I love the comments and the concerns, because they do matter, and I do understand that. but there are overall concerns as well for the whole town as to some of these things that we might want to protect from, solar fields, solar panel sites, or whatever. So, and time is up on we're slightly over now.
In
If I could
conclusion,
just make one tiny response to say
one
that
moment,
throughout
ma'am.
the town
One moment,
plan,
ma'am.
town plan, scenic
Miss Murray,
resources
Miss
is
Murray,
included.
Miss Murray,
So-
please.
so-
I have the floor, Miss Murray. Please.
I'm so sorry, I thought
Thank you.
he was done.
I was just going to say in conclusion to this whole discussion, what we had talked about at the meeting beforehand was this was very encompassing. We needed to focus strictly on what we had in the town plan already. And those were the strict items that we were looking at rather than all of them because of the concerns that were brought up by Dr. Murray and yourself about all of this, along with other people's concerns of the overwhelming impact that it could have to property owners. So we didn't want to step out and include all of those other things in that to make sure we only worked on what we had here with the plan. So that's why we stopped. I'll give you 30 seconds, Ms. Murray.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that throughout the town plan, those scenic resources, significant scenic resources are mentioned so that it's set up to create those regulations and limitations, not just for energy. Those have been in there for a while, but like from years ago, so I'll just reference back to that it's already in the town plan. So we just, town involvement, I mean, it's important to protect those views, absolutely. And that's essential for the Vermont lifestyle and scenery. So I just think it's important, but we have to do it methodically, like you just said. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate your input on this, Ms. Murray. The more members of the public that are involved in this process as we go through the scenic resources, the better this is going to be for the whole town when it goes through. Just right now, we have to concentrate on getting the rest of the town plan going, which was part of the whole discussion of why we wanted to take this whole item off the agenda in the first place, so we didn't get dragged down a rabbit hole, but we hear you. Moving on to item number 7, town plan finalization. Brian, this has been a long time coming.
We're close. So in the packet is...
Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you, Bruce. I appreciate it.
Are all the chapters that we've gone through, including a new one, which is basically a summary of the goals and actions by project type. That's not complete. I basically went through the planning commission section. There still will be other sections for the, maybe for all the different responsible parties, but at least the major ones that have lots of things in there. And then the last thing that's not in here that I've just started working on is an introduction. There's probably 3 or 4 different statutory things that need to be addressed, and I think the introduction is where they're going to be mentioned. So I have a checklist of all the requirements by statute. I've gone through those and caught a couple things, like in the utilities and facilities section, we'll see that there's an added section about school facilities. So I think we are getting very close. I think there's 3 chapters in here with new content that we'll look at, but now is the time to sort of with a fine-tooth comb, if you see spelling errors or title errors and section numbers and things like that, we're at that point where we need to catch all that stuff.
Have all members of the board had a chance to go over this yet?
15 times.
Just wanted to make sure.
Sadly, I read the whole thing.
Yeah, and
It's riveting.
It's cumbersome, and this has been the slowest part, has been formatting and trying to get everything to line up and make sense together.
Format's the worst part.
It's taken a lot of time.
I think in the land use chapter, I saw some stuff that was still green and red. Is that supposed to?
So the land use chapter, the municipal services, utilities, facilities chapter, and there's one other one I can tell you, has some new content.
Is it supposed to?
Yeah, and I can explain those. But
I know,
basically,
the
like when I was going through the checklist with all the statute requirements, that's where I caught something and said, okay, we're missing this, we need to add that in. So let me tell you what that is. For a second. Energy, utilities, facilities, and land use. Everything else should be clean. So, do you want to just start and go through chapter 1, and any comments anybody has, bring them up now? And
Yeah, let's go through one chapter at a time, and then that way we can all get it so we're not jumping all over the place. Mr. Todd?
I'd like to, I don't know if we need a motion or not. We've already gone through all of this stuff, so I'd like to keep the discussion focused on the changes that Brian and I just discussed.
Absolutely.
And anything outside of that is off the table right now. Unless it's something gross that somebody catches and we gotta fix it, but we're probably not gonna adopt all this stuff tonight anyway. So,
It'd be nice.
so I'd like to just get through all those changes, those updates.
Okay, there are some language changes Brian had sent me throughout the different chapters, sort of minor ones. I was willing to accept all of them as they were. Mostly they were just wording changes. And then he brought up the abbreviations for the different boards and the action items. My intention was to have at the beginning a key to those different things, but maybe it makes more sense to type them out. At the time, it was just a matter of trying to make it look clean and easy, but it probably has more confusion than it needs to, so I'll probably just type those out.
Yeah, the bulk of my comments were just structuring and I went through the whole thing, and then there were abbreviations. I just think if someone looks up, I don't know, like pond construction, well, they don't know what the HD is, what's the highway department. I know what it is, but I mean,
Yeah.
that was really, most of mine was wordsmithing and some rewording of a few things. I mean, otherwise, I didn't really find any red flags in any of these. And I sent Ryan my comments yesterday, so he had a chance today to look at them. So.
And I also saw your comments as well. They line up real well with everything else.
So most of them were real brief and had those acronyms. There was probably 4 we can go over if you want. There's 4 of them in chapter 1, so we can start there.
You want to start there?
Line 211 in chapter 1. It currently says, while state map river corridors are not specifically protected by zoning bylaws in Weathersfield, it has been suggested that they be to become eligible for a higher reimbursement rate after a flood emergency. The proposed language is state map river corridors are not currently protected under Weathersfield zoning bylaws. However, establishing such protection would allow them to qualify for increased reimbursement rates in the event of a flood emergency. So, same statement, reworded in a cleaner way. Everyone good with that?
Yep.
Okay, line, I guess the next thing is you had that too. So line 237, I added new language there, which is just merged, use responsibly, another natural resources. I had gone through some of our old comments and notes that I hadn't gotten to yet that were just sort of sitting in a document that I had for catching those things. So I just added, based on a discussion we had in the past, a little bit more explanation for the terminology, conservation specifically. And so I wrote that stuff, and then Brian made it more concise. The proposed change is to change it to conservation land comprises large parcels where homes are dispersed and resources such as farm and forest products are produced sustainably. While it may include areas with development restrictions or conservation easements, its defining feature is productive capacity for human use, distinguishing it from preservation land. So,
is the plan that when you speak, what you speak, that Brian suggested, become what it is, and then this move on, or are we seeing this again?
I think if people are comfortable with it, then we should just say accept Brian's change and move on.
It's hard for me to I believe that it sounds great, but
Yeah.
hearing 2 sentences that sound very similar
Right.
doesn't really, it sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy, I'm fine with that, but it seems like a hard way to take in information.
Yeah, you're right.
But also, like, That's fine with me.
Um,
I believe that it's anyway.
Do you want me to print off the sheet and then you can look at the changes?
I'm okay with that.
I don't mean to be a stick in the mud.
Well, no, now's
It
the
just
time.
feels
that's
a
the time
little-
to-
it just
yeah,
feels a little, you know,
We don't
like-
wanna, if we can do it now, that's better than.
Yeah, I'd
doing it next
rather
week.
attack this now
If
so
it's
we have the time for it.
easy,
Yeah.
if I could see it, it would help.
Let me
But
put
if
up
not,
copies.
like I can just
Because
pay
what
attention
I
real
did was I
close.
clipped the paragraph that Ryan wrote, and I put mine directly underneath it, so you can easily compare.
Great, print me one. That sounds great.
All right. Here we go.
Then I can feel more comfortable about my nodding head instead
Patience,
of.
would it be helpful to have a copy?
Sure.
I'll print you one.
Yeah, considering we're referencing it, it's always a good to have.
Okay.
Sorry.
In
Okay.
the meantime, is there?
Could I ask a question?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but the chapters that I'm looking at, are they the same ones that you're referring to? Because the line numbers I'm having trouble following.
Did you click on the link in the agenda or are you on the PC packet?
And the chapters that are online, the link that's provided in your packet to all those chapters and the lines that you're referring to, Ryan, in your discussion, I can't seem to match up.
Do you know when you opened those files? Because they were the older versions until I updated them today. So you might just need to refresh it or reopen those chapters. They should be the same.
Well, I did open them this morning. That's when I've been reading this all day, and I have a number of comments, but they're based on line item. I annotated.
Line numbers that don't exist
Yeah.
from something being updated.
DeForest, you're cutting out a little bit, but yeah, that's something that Brian caught. That when I put the packet together, I hadn't updated the documents online. Basically, the ones that were online were supposed to be the most recently accepted and the board sort of approved. So these ones are new drafts. We realized that got confusing between the two different copies, so I updated them online, but only around noon today. So they should match now, but if you were looking at the ones from before, that was what the board has already sort of accepted. But the ones online had new formatting the ones in the packet had new formatting and some changes, so they don't
So
align.
the packet ones that were emailed out are the most correct ones, not the ones that were on the link prior to about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, that area.
Right.
Okay.
Can you see the difficulty that poses when you have the public trying to follow what you're doing?
Yeah, so.
We did bring this up to have it corrected.
So it was from a point of trying to be transparent about what we had sort of accepted already, but it became apparent after publishing the new packet that it got more confusing and maybe we should have just taken them off the website instead. So learning curve, that was the first time that this has been something we've tried.
We can probably find where your comments go though, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the line numbers might have changed a little, but the text is pretty much the same.
Yeah, because I would definitely want to hear your comments, if you could just reference the,
But
This
my
section.
question is, Ryan, on the packet, for example, line 237, it's different than what was the old version online. That's what I caught with, because your update wasn't online. And I said, what's going on? And that's when I emailed you and said, hey, something's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, unfortunately, DeForest, you read what was old information.
But I think, DeForest, if you tell us what line you're looking at, I can pull up that version and then
Yes.
tell the board what line item or what the line is currently. But yeah, that was a new snag that we ran into with trying to post everything.
But if her comments are based on an old document,
Well, it's the same information, it's just different line numbers because things shifted with.
but it still might change her view or perception of the language and whether or not there's a valid comment or not.
Right, yeah.
Yes,
we're gonna have to work it out.
Okay, let me grab this up and just print it off and figure out how you want to go forward.
Do your packets go past 12, chapter 12? Mine goes black at chapter 12.
That's where it ends.
Huh?
That's where it ends.
Okay, all right, just wanted to make sure.
Oh, thank you.
Deep highlighted for you.
I'll take that cool version. Thank you, Ryan.
Is there a way we can put this up online?
Yes.
So we'll share a screen or something so everybody can see?
Yeah. All right. Share. Patience, would you, I think I sent a request if you could allow me to share. Okay.
Okay, so we're starting off in chapter 1, line number 211 on our sheet, and for those that are referencing something else, it would be under 1.3.1, under wetlands, section 1, river corridors. I hope that helps you understand where we are if you're looking at the wrong information online.
Which does come out to 210, 211, which is hashtag 211, chapter 1 on this, right here. Right here. Hashtag
Yes.
211,
That's the line number.
yes.
I have a suggestion, which is why don't we/I just read all the things that Brian suggested in the next 3 minutes, and then we can just choose if there's a problem, or we can just say these are all good. Especially if folks online can also do the same thing.
Yep.
Because my guess is we don't really need to have a discussion about it.
Yeah, no, I'm totally fine with that. Brian?
Take a 5-minute recess?
5-minute recess. Brian, is there a way to make sure that people online can see the whole document that Brian posted?
That one right there?
Yes, just,
Yes, they should be able to see that online.
Including the next page of it, like.
yeah, as you
Oh.
go down.
Or do we need to like scroll along as they?
We have to scroll
You know, in an effort to do this right.
Well, I want to have all the input from inside, so all the clerical changes, those are, let's see here, on the second page pretty much, and that's all abbreviations all the way through.
There is one a little further down, Joe, if you get to line 83, under chapter 6, so the state statute requires to include airports in it, and so I put a description of the airport in there just to help.
Well, let's just start on chapter 1,
Yeah.
line 1, and like,
Yeah, we're gonna have to.
And
do
go.
some of that. Here we are talking about chapter 1, 1.3.1, section A, section B, section number 1, in the river corridors. While the state map river corridors are not specifically protected by zoning bylaws in Weathersfield, it has been suggested that they become eligible for higher reimbursement rates after a flood emergency. And Brian's proposed language for that is state mapped river corridors are not currently protected under Weathersfield zoning bylaws. However, establishing such protection would allow the town to qualify for increased reimbursement rates in the event of flood emergencies. I like yours, Brian. It feels very factual, right to the point.
I'm not sure the first one makes any sense. It has been suggested that they be to become eligible.
That's where I started.
There needs to be a call. It has suggested that they be to become eligible, yeah. It doesn't, it's not.
Yeah, that may be to become eligible, that doesn't make sense.
All right, we'll take Brian's.
Yeah, all right, moving on to line 237, which is still in chapter 1, section 1.3.2, conservation land. This is the first sentence in that section. And Ryan, you had edits inside of this as well.
I think Brian took what I had, added, and then changed that. So the changes to the new green proposed language.
That's correct.
Brian's is much more succinct, but I think your green one there explains a little more of the differences in land classification that might be useful when reading the document. That's my initial thought.
Any other thoughts from members on the board on that?
I haven't got through it all yet.
Okay.
I do like Brian's better, and the reason for that is I think there's a lot of hoopla in the first one that's just, it's just kind of talk, blah, blah, blah,
And actually, I think Brian's covers it
more succinctly.
and
Yes.
actually doesn't, I think Brian's is just fine. I think that's great.
Any comments from online during any of this process?
I guess what I'm looking at in what is originally there is the, when we talk about usually with dispersed homes that are used responsibly, it's kind of subjective. Those kind of statements, those kind of things they don't really serve the purpose.
Right, that's why I tried to simplify and still try to get the same point across. I mean, it was really inspiration what Ryan wrote.
Yeah.
And then I said, okay, well, how can
We say it without the fluff.
I like Brian's version of it personally. The rest of the board happy with accepting Brian's changes for that section?
Yep.
Good. Moving on to hashtag number 246, slightly down.
same one under 1.3.2?
Part of the course yours reads a little bit better.
Well, I was sort of split on that one. I wasn't going to change it, and then I said, well, let me just throw that out. And now
They say the same thing.
I was trying to get to simplify it because it seemed like the old language just kind of wanders all over the place again. And I was saying, okay, what's really important here? Well, it enhances the scenic beauty and rural character of the landscape, supports a variety of plant and wildlife habitat, and even in the absence of a formal conservation easement, a productive and economically viable parcel is less likely to be parcelized and developed. I had subdivided, but I thought parcelized was a better choice of words for something like that.
Yeah, because it could also cover PUDs and other things that we haven't necessarily gone down the road of.
Exactly
Yeah.
right.
Hey, you were starting to say something?
Well, I was gonna say, financially generative is an interesting word combination that feels a little different than economically viable, because economically viable sounds big, means big parcel to me. And financially generative is a little more flexible, because, and maybe the reality is we're talking about big parcels, and if that's the case.
I think my intention was that you can be financially generative without necessarily being economically viable. It
Yeah.
just sort of feels like if you're selling honey at the end of your driveway, you're making a little bit of money. It might not be
And you might
viable.
not have any,
economically,
you
but-
know, you don't need any money.
Yeah, but it feels good as a sort of a secondary
Yeah.
accessory use to the property.
Which is why I kind of like financially generative, because it feels a little less like we're talking about big parcels.
I think Brian's fits in again here more consistently with the existing prime ag soils bylaw, where the first one you kind of get lost again in the fluff.
Yeah, I kind of tripped over financially generative. I actually looked that up to get a meaning. I mean, I know what it means, but in context, I went and searched it out, and I was like, because I've never really used that word.
I just made it up.
Did you? I mean, I thought it was kind of interesting and financially generative. I thought, oh, well, what does that really mean? And that's what made me pause, maybe because it was in green.
It's a real word.
But again, yours is more to the point, and it ends with the less likely to be parcelized and developed, which is in our bylaws that protect prime ag soils.
Right. That was the driver.
Right. So I think it makes more sense, and it gets to the point.
So, all in favor of adding Brian's comments and replacing them in there?
Comments online, I'm having a hard time reading. Maybe patients, you can look with your good eyes and see.
They're not comments, they're people coming in and out of the meeting.
Okay, thank you. And the rest of my comments, well, I wondered why, we're wordsmithing here, and I don't think we're gonna waste time. A lot of that stuff is.
Yeah, the rest of them I
So
think
there's
we should move
acronyms,
on.
you asked about an asterisk, that's just a mistake, there's no good reason for there to be an asterisk, that'll just go
I saw
away.
that a couple of times.
Yeah, you said, NTFPs, we should spell out non-traditional farm products, but the NTFPs followed non-timber forest product, so I'll just get rid of the acronym, because it didn't do anything.
Right, I forgot
It's not
that.
gonna come up on a second time, so there's no reason to.
And then I added on, if we go to 228, if that's the right, chapter 3. We jump to chapter 3. Find chapter 3.
228, chapter 3?
Yeah, because these aren't numbered sequentially, they're numbered by chapter. So, okay, so if you go to chapter 3 and you go down to 228, the line, and I'll get
Page 39
Page 39,
of the packet.
or it's under 3.4 economic development goals.
I found this on the web.
Holy buckets, what's gonna happen next?
You never know when you ask Siri.
Thank you for finding something on the web. I'm not sure what we found.
Which line were you
Oh,
on, Brian?
probably a word, I probably held my finger down too long or something.
Oh, they're double sided.
Yeah, so what I did was I just added, because we talk about a Connecticut River boat launch, and Muscatine has served as a central point of activity, blah, blah, blah. But we don't talk about the canoe launch in the state park, which I thought was important to have in there, because I don't think a lot of people know about that.
Yeah, it made me think, do we need an action for that then? Should we just say that we have this and, people are working on, access and things like that, but, it might be.
It is a
unnecessary.
paid, you do need to pay to use the state park.
Right, and.
Yeah, but you get a pass at the library to use it for.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess the question is, should we still have it as an action that we should look for a second location for a boat launch, or should we just scrap that action item and say, we have one, let's use it?
Well, I know that I spent time with Hank's mom, looking along the river one time this past fall. We looked at the old river crossing with the bridges now going to Claremont. We went down to the bow, and forget about the bow. To get in there would be a major undertaking. And then we went up to the park and launched our canoes there, and then we traveled up and down the river. And I got to tell you, it'd be a bunch of work to do this. I don't know, how important is it?
There used to, I just want to point, there used to be a boat landing in the boat.
Right. But it's-
And the select board, I think, started to have a conversation about that 4 or 5 years ago. And, what's her name? She used to take our minutes. Lisa Stilson's sister.
Yeah.
Lives, no, not Marion. Diana Day. She lives down there, and she was very concerned about some of the illegal activity taking place down there, and she was and that thing died.
Yeah,
Ferry Lane.
it is kind of a long,
Is that Ferry Lane?
yeah, Ferry Road.
Yeah. That's a tough spot to watch too, it's like 15 feet straight down to the
I mean, the
water.
state park's not much better, but I was just, I would think, because forgetting about the whole policing and what goes on down there, just the physical lack of a facility is a big lift.
Well, and I,
Which you can get
Well,
into.
it's a gravel slope that you slide the canoe down, which I'm not real happy about because I have a really nice canoe that scratches easily, so.
can't scratch paint. But is there any, real quick, is there any, a place that would not be similar? In other words, I think the thing with Ferry Lane is it's over a bank, it's down, it's a long ways down, and it's obscure, so it's a place to hide.
Right.
Are there any places?
Yeah,
I think
go
that's what you're
across the
saying.
river, go up the Windsor, go across the river, drive 1 mile, make a left, and you can pop into the river there, it's nice.
Well, I know, but we're talking about in Weathersfield. Is there a place that's not obscure like that, that's gonna end up being another, like Ferry Lane? Because that obviously had no support.
I thought it was public access.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I mean, we went halfway down to the Springfield boat launch and then turned around just because between private property and other things, we just go like,
Nowhere to get in.
you know, I think it's a really great idea and I'd love to have it, but.
We know that if you go to the interstate and the rest areas, a lot of those are closed down and locked up, gated. The one at the top of the hill coming from Rockingham to Springfield was another big problem, and they shut it down. That's a gorgeous, it goes back out like this, and there's a gorgeous view out there. But again, it became obscure, and it took on a use that was, the BSP or somebody had enough, and they closed it down.
I mean, I would say we should keep it as an action item if we didn't have the state park. But since we have the state park, I realize they limited to canoes and kayaks only. You can't put a motorboat in, but you couldn't get a motorboat in there anyway.
You get a motorboat, go to one of the boat landings that already exist,
Yeah,
like we just said.
Or go down to Springfield. So
Yeah.
I'm almost saying, my feeling is get it out of there and just mention the fact that you can launch a canoe and kayak out of the state park, just so everybody knows that. And
Hank, have you talked to Julie about what her work has been with the Locust State Park? Does it make sense to keep an action item and say that the town should continue to work with Locust to make that something that's more accessible for residents?
I think that's wonderful because, my comment was gonna be going to the library to coordinate yourself to go put your canoe in means you're probably not gonna go canoeing
or
at
you
the
pay
state park.
$5.
Yeah, sure.
it's just like
It's just like another barrier, I mean, $5, I suppose that it adds up, but anyway,
Yeah, don't take your bullets in.
yeah. Anyway.
Cost you more than $5 to drive to the nearest boat landing and back.
Anyway, I don't have the.
I mean, when we were at the state park, they were more than welcoming. We told them from Weathersfield, and they were like, yeah, this would be great. We don't get a lot of activity here, we want to volunteer.
My limited experience there was that it's a cool spot and underutilized resource that we should publicize more, and we could do that by, giving residents
It should be
season
in,
passes and
it should be in the town plan.
Yeah, okay, well, I'll add this to it and, just sort of clarify what we talked about.
We're kind of jumping around in chapters here, we should probably get back to land use.
The rest of them, I guess there's just the Hartnett Airport language.
Yeah,
The rest of them are really minor changes.
Yeah, if we go to chapter, we finished land use.
I say we're into just typos there.
Yeah.
And, there's this blurb about the Hartnett Airport, which looks fine to me.
The only reason I put it in there because the statute mentions, it talks about rail and it says airport, and I saw we had Amtrak and everybody else, and since we own half of the airport, it should be in there. So I just cobbled together, actually stole this off the state website, in full disclosure, so
That sounds a little bit like Howled Together to me.
Feel free to change it, but I read it and said, you know what, that works. Close enough. Anyway, the rest are all, when we're done with that, I do one other thing I just we should talk about. There you are. Okay, we're gonna jump up to chapter 10 now.
I'm on that Hartness Airport thing.
Okay, sorry, Mike.
And, remember we had started a discussion about creating a airport district? Should that be here? See, if you're gonna put stuff in here about the airport, or is that land use? Would that be something that would
Well,
slide
we
up?
had something in land use about that.
Okay.
Because we talked about an airport protection zone somewhere, I don't remember where it was, but we talked about it to protect the takeoff and landing areas at the end of the runways, and I forget where I read that. It's in here someplace, but
Yep.
I didn't.
Isn't a lot of that protected by the dam area?
Already?
Nope.
I mean, I think part of that was because of, I know why we put it in there, was because of the cell towers. Don't stick a cell tower up into the approach or departure end of the airport, that's where.
In the PUC or P section.
Yeah, I think that's where we ended up sticking that.
Yeah, the triangles. The triangles coming in and out of the runway.
I'll just confirm that we have something about the overlay district.
3 areas.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're supposed to be there for oversight of development. You know, you want to be careful what you put in there for buildings and, towers and stuff. Yeah.
Right, and I was moving to chapter 10. Mike, are you good there?
Yes, I am, thank you.
Sorry, I didn't mean
No, you're
to
fine.
keep pushing ahead here.
Yeah, no, you're good.
144 pages here, it's unbelievable. Chapter 9,
Mine's only 114 pages, just saying.
sorry. Dyslexic. Okay, so if I go to line 146 and.
What page are you on?
Be 91, I think, 90, 91, somewhere in here, 90, 89.
89, which is under 10.1.4, citing standards for renewable electric facilities, and I said, so we talk about all these things that we don't want solar panels and windmills and all this other stuff, but we forgot to talk about, or at least I thought we forgot to prohibit them on prominent ridge lines, and then I said refer to the map at the end of the chapter. I don't think we ever discussed that, because we spent a lot of time talking about cell towers on prominent ridge lines, but we never.
Ryan has that map too, that shows all the.
Well, that's
ridge
what
lines.
kind of made me go, oh, so
Yeah.
we really should, because you could put a solar collector on a ridge line, and boy, you would see that, it'd be a great spot for it. Or, I don't know, I just was.
So add a line to say prohibited related to the solar
Yeah,
siting.
146C, put a bullet in there, say prohibited on ridge
Then
lines.
drop your map
at the
and
end
give
of
it a
the
chapter.
chapter.
Mhm.
And then when everybody's good with that, I've got just some, the other stuff, it's just real minor stuff here. We all good with that?
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then let's move to chapter 12. And then I'll be quiet.
Hard to imagine how I could disagree with a sentence that gets safe streets for all added to it, but I'll look.
All right, for some reason, my
Maybe I
iPad
won't.
just died, or it's loaded.
Yeah, that might be.
We don't have streets.
Yeah,
Rain
thank you,
trails.
Howard.
That's true.
If we go to chapter 12, line number 52,
Did it begin?
we talk about all these different things that we want to do for pedestrians and stuff, and one of the things that's mentioned in the transportation section is safe streets for all. So I thought we ought to put that in there so it ties back to everything that Mike, you and we did with our superintendent there.
My thing is being stupid.
I'm sorry?
Tell us more.
My thing is being stupid.
I have that same.
So is mine,
Got
yeah.
overwhelmed by all the pages.
Everybody started scrolling too fast.
Anyway, so it was in the transportation section, and that's when I said, oh, it's mentioned there, well, it should be mentioned here because we talk about safety of pedestrians, older residents, blah, 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 and we ought to put in, because Safe Streets for All is a program that.
Somebody must be watching
Grant,
YouTube
grant,
upstairs.
grant money.
Yep, grant money. And then if I go to 109, under, let's see.
Mine just went out now.
I think maybe once you get down to the bottom, you get close to the maps, and the maps might be overwhelming.
Yeah. Okay, if I go to 109, it's really easy here. Oh, mine just popped back.
Is 109 the page number or the line number?
No, it's the page 107.
Do it again?
I'm not sure that I can go that far.
Okay, so the only
Page
thing
107? Okay.
the only thing I did was the 12.1.6, 1.4.2, parens A7, update the outdoor lighting standards with the zoning bylaws to be dark sky compliant, and then I added, and use of dark sky approved luminaires. That's like the stuff that stands up now, that's the sort of standard language that they're using. It's dark sky compliant is wonderful, but you should also, and use of dark sky approved luminaires. So you have something in the language that, if you're gonna do dark sky, you gotta use the approved fixtures. So just saying.
Does that change light bulb types and everything that people are gonna have to use?
Nope, it just changes the direction of the light. It
Just shoot it down.
Yeah, when it does dark sky lights, they do recommend using a warmer bulb instead of a cold bulb.
Yeah.
You know, the blue light versus the warm brown light.
I've already sold on that.
So it's really the only difference is the whole dark sky thing is focus it to the ground. That's it. You can use whatever luminaire you want.
Yeah, no, my only question on the light fixtures themselves was, it would be by accident triggering having to make everybody buy new outside lights.
Nope. It's all for future stuff. It's not, and it's not retroactive. So if you
It's
have
also
a
not, it's also not a zoning bylaw, it's in town plan.
True, well, I'm just thinking forward, if working off all that, what it means, yeah.
I mean, one of the things we should talk about sometime down the road is looking at the lighting thing. What do you want to do with that? Anyway, I'm going to be quiet now. That's all the comments I have.
Well, thank you, Brian, for doing this, for sure, and putting these thoughts together, because you're always good at catching these things like this.
There's cross on me. I just don't read them.
Rebecca?
I am back. Yes.
Okay, so we're done with these.
Yeah, we're done with Brian's notes.
Excellent.
I'm going to share my packet so anyone online can see that. And DeForest, if you have comments on old line numbers, I have the old chapters that I can bring up. So if you see it by line number, then I can kind of refer us back to keep us all on the same page.
Okay, thanks.
And are we trying to be done with chapter 1?
Yeah, I don't
Should
know
we
if
be
the forest
asking
might have
for, right,
comments.
so that was my hope was
The forest
to,
might have a comment, and then there was a couple other changes that I don't think we addressed.
I have a question.
Absolutely.
In land use, I have it written as line 68 to 70. It's right in the very beginning.
That's going to be under section 1.1.1, which I'll tell you the line number.
86 is where it started.
Yes.
Line 86.
Yep.
It would be line 97, the remainder of the town.
The paragraph begins, the voters of Weathersfield have adopted land use regulations. Are we in the same place?
No, hang on.
I am.
I'm not seeing that in the old one.
What line are you on, DeForest?
In my version, it's line 68.
And it starts with the voters of Weathersfield have adopted land use regs?
Oh, yeah, it's still
Yeah, it's the
68.
same.
Okay, so she's in
The paragraph begins with the voters of Weathersfield have adopted land use regulations. My comment is not that sentence, but the next one that says, preference is to be given to approaches and regulations that balance multiple factors using the best data available rather than absolute prohibitions based on one specific type or source of information. Can you explain what you mean by that? It sounds to me like you're proposing to go to a form-based type of zoning. Is that what you're driving at?
Actually, I think this was taken from the original.
I think so too.
This was taken from the previous town plan before us.
I think so.
I'm almost sure.
Is that relevant? I mean, it's going to be in the plan. We should know what it means and what it's directing us to do.
Right, exactly, I agree.
It should probably be clarified, but I think my interpretation is back to something that Mike's brought up a couple of times about using standards for uses rather than a list of uses themselves. So something that's a little bit less explicit and prescriptive and more based on the sort of measurable factors of a use, the standards of that.
Yeah,
And that's a different type of zoning. It's called form-based. There's no specific uses. It's all based on what are the impacts of your proposed use on the neighborhood type thing.
yeah, and one of the other, if I may,
Yes.
one of the other considerations I think that led to this, DeForest, is that no two pieces of land are actually exactly the same. And what you might be able to do on one parcel, on one road, and in the same district, you might not be able to do on another parcel because of different restrictions or characteristics of that parcel of land. So that, I think, is part of, that makes sense, Ryan, as to what we were trying to address here?
I think so. I think what might be Forrest's concern is that within a zone, all properties have to be treated equally. And so it gets kind of tough when you say, well, it's appropriate on this property, but not the other one, even though it's in the same district, same zoning district.
I disagree with that statement, and that's why we had this discussion way back when we created this, and we did it in zoning as well. And the reason is there are other things in our zoning that may apply on this piece of property, but not on this one. And that makes a difference, and they're not treated the same. They're not equal. However, they can't be, because what if one has greater than 3 acres of ag soils and the other one doesn't? You're handling them different.
Yeah, well, ag soils are a different.
But that's the point I'm making, is we have other things in our zoning bylaws already. Deer wintering areas.
Right.
You know, there's are things already that may, just because you get to do it on this side of the road doesn't mean you can do it on the other side. There might be different topographies and characteristics that say, no, you can't do that. And so it's not being treated fairly, or not being treated equally. They are. If the two pieces of property have the same characteristics, they would be handled exactly the same, but they might not.
So maybe we need to give some clarification to this paragraph.
Yeah, because I understand what the Forest is saying too, is that you can't start putting things in that are, what I'm thinking of here.
Consistent with the zone?
And I think another thing that this was addressing was,
criteria.
if I may, another thing that this was addressing is sometimes we see things like on GIS maps that are not accurate as well. So if you just pull up a GIS map and you say, no permit for you because it says you got this here. Yeah, you've got to look at that data and go verify it, and it may be wrong, it may be incorrect.
Or like sometimes the wetlands don't show.
We've seen those things happen, and that's why we were trying to address some of that, to give that flexibility to the zoning administrator and the zoning board in both cases, and in some cases it may be an appeals
I just think we should be a little more specific in the wording to express that.
Yeah.
Because I can see how DeForest could interpret it to be like more of a performance standard than bylaw. So I just think we have to be a little more specific.
So I'm confused. Howard, are you saying that you want to get away from saying that it should be standard based? Because I think the sentence is basically saying that it should be more standard based.
Right.
So,
I think that potentially presents a problem because it is form-based zoning as opposed to Euclidean zoning. And you can't apply two different types of zoning to two different districts. It's one or the other. We'll have to find some way of just explaining, what Mike is pointing out is that obviously it's got ag soils or some of these other things. And those are listed in their other areas. But just a reference that other things may apply. Or something in there that, to have it go strictly to performance standards, I think when we use Euclidean zoning everywhere else, gets to be a problem.
I think what would be helpful to clarify this is to say, in part, zoning is trying to reduce conflicts between abutting uses and neighbors and things like that. And so preference is to be given to approaches that regulate those factors like lighting and noise, rather than strict prohibitions on uses. But I think that can be utilized with Euclidean zoning with a list of uses. But the standards for the uses are more based on its impact to abutting properties rather than just how we perceive a certain use to function.
What happens to this paragraph if that whole section?
That's exactly what I was gonna say. What if that sentence is gone? Do we lose anything? Or I really like what you said, the beginning of your first sentence was, zoning is the town's effort to keep neighbors peaceable or whatever. I don't remember what you said, it sounded better than what I said.
Neighborly?
But neighborly is to sort of, is to have the town.
So maybe the sentence needs to just restate the purpose of zoning rather than try and direct how we're going to do it.
I like that.
Yeah. So one of the things that we don't have in this draft that we have in the Old Town Plan, so you go to the Old Town Plan and you look on page, I think it's 15, if I got this right, Joe?
yeah, that's the 17 plan, so it would be 15 is in the land use section.
Yeah, the land use section, look on page 15, we have land use categories and descriptions. And it goes on here and it talks about all the different categories, and it does a pretty good job here about the values and desired uses. I'm just wondering if we shouldn't, maybe this needs a little.
Well, I think we have that. We just have different categories now.
But, okay, but I think this, what I like about this is, this kind of really gives a nice, says desired uses and things. I don't know.
So, a list of desired uses?
Yeah, if you go to page.
That feels like zoning regulation. That doesn't feel like the town plan to call out those uses.
Can I butt in?
Absolutely.
Okay, sorry. I think that it's a loaded statement. If the purpose is to re-examine how we regulate land use in town by changing the type of zoning we choose to use, or doing away with zoning and finding some other way that's allowed by state law, I think that's what you need to think about. That's what this statement is pretty loaded. And when I read it, it tells me that you want to do away with prescriptive zoning and pursue more of a form-based, which I'm not saying right or wrong or otherwise. I'm just saying that this statement is pretty loaded, and I think it needs to be much more clear what it is you're trying to accomplish by staying in.
And I think we got it from the previous one and just left it. I don't feel like I have much thoughts about this sentence particularly.
Yeah, I don't really remember going over too much. So I was rifling through this to see where I could find it in the old plan.
Is it in there?
Maybe we did. My response to it was these tables.
The discussion, Howard and Mike's discussion they just had now makes perfect sense. Yeah. But I don't think this sentence is representing a wild change in zoning.
No, it's
to us. We're not trying to
no.
intend that.
So we need to,
and I don't know what purpose it has.
We need to redraft this thing.
Or just take that sentence
Or
out.
just take that sentence out and let zoning do its job.
Yeah, so it is in the old plans, the preference to be given to approach with about, so it's under, let's see if it's under a section. It's under like the BioFinder tiers section. So it was just something from the Natural Scenic Historic Resources section that got rearranged and brought over. But to DeForest's point, we're putting it in our current town plan, we should understand what it means, and
Or take
we
it out.
clearly don't, so I think we should just take it out. I can add a sentence to discuss, sort of the purpose of zoning, or I could just not even bother.
I think a sentence about the purpose of zoning, if we don't have that, is really handy, because it is easy to lose, it's easy to forget why, in theory, the citizens of Weathersfield prefer to live somewhere that has zoning, right? I mean,
Right,
that sort
and
of
so that
is.
follows that sentence that the voters have chosen.
But isn't that in the block at the very beginning?
Yeah.
Isn't that what describes
Yeah.
what you're doing with zoning?
It does.
Mhm.
The voters of Weathersfield have adopted land use regulation to help maintain these values, period.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's that sentence.
So if you take out purposes be given to approaches and regulations that balance, blah, 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 and just get rid of that and then start with planning as it is described in the town plan is the process that the town undertakes to create a vision for the future.
There you go.
Okay, sounds good.
DeForest, that makes sense to you?
Yeah, thank you, I appreciate that.
You know, I read that and I made a note on it and then I completely forgot to. Thank you.
You betcha.
What else do you have, DeForest? Anything else that we're missing?
Ah, you beat me to it.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was curious, line 585, again, it's the same, chapter. Let me scroll down and get the section number. 585.
Which chapter are we on? Land use.
We're still in one.
I'm still in land use, yes. 1.4.2 goals and actions. And it is number 3.
In mine, that's gone. Policy, 3?
It's number 3, action.
Could you read it, the action?
Yeah, the action says the town shall adopt sustainable and efficient subdivision regulations.
That's not what I got. Not at 583.
We now have 6 that said review and amend. That sort of might be the.
585 on the old version.
1.4.2, goals and actions. Goal A, action 1, action 2, action 3.
Okay.
Town shall adopt sustainable and efficient subdivision regulations.
Yeah, we definitely changed that at the last one. I'd have to pull up the other document for when we edited these actions, but I think it got reworded and the premise is
I think it's
in number 6 now.
number 6 now.
Which,
Review and amend the subdivision regulations to ensure that they are adequately meeting the conservation and development goals of the town, improve efficiency in the review and permitting process, especially for minor subdivisions which shall be defined.
right, so we got away from, well, so one, we made it more congruent, we got rid of the town shall adopt, blah, blah, blah. And then we got rid of language like adopt sustainable subdivision regulations, which is a little bit vague and subjective, and just said that the subdivision regulations need to meet the goals in the town plan.
The subdivision regulations should what?
Review and amend the subdivision regulations to ensure that they are adequately meeting the conservation and development goals of the town.
Okay, that's admirable, and I wouldn't want to change that. But one thing that has always been a problem with our subdivision regulations is that they were made in the 80s, and they are made for major projects, 100 lots, 50 lots, which does not reflect the type of subdivision we have here on a routine basis. Even back in the subdivision craze in the 80s, which was when we adopted these, the biggest we were seeing were 9-lot subdivisions to get underneath the 250 radar. So we routinely see 1 and 2 lot subdivisions, and yet we put people through an inordinate process just to do that. Could we get on our radar the development of subdivision regulations that actually reflect the type of subdivisions that we actually get here?
Yeah, so let me read you the second sentence that I didn't read you initially. So the whole action item is review and amend the subdivision regulations to ensure that they are adequately meeting conservation and development goals of the town. Improve efficiency in the review and permitting process, especially for minor subdivisions, which shall be defined.
That's better. But I would like it to say more something direct about to reflect the types of subdivisions that we routinely see in town, or something to that effect.
So I don't know. I think we could add those words right onto the end of that.
I don't want to make it too wordy, but you know what I'm getting at. We've been hobbled with these subdivision regulations for a very long time. We've done a lot of stupid things to make them work in situations it was not designed for, and it does not make for good outcomes. So we really, really need to change them to reflect the type of subdivision we do see, that's easy for the person doing it, but not creating lots that can't be developed because I'm going down the rabbit hole. I would just want to see subdivision regulations that reflect the type of subdivisions we routinely see in town.
Mike, you were about to say something?
Well, I don't know if I want to or not. Before we went to a DRB, I've been here now for, I don't know, roughly 16, 17, 18 years, somewhere in there. And we had the subdivision process down so that it was very, very easy. In fact, in most cases, the sketch plan review led immediately to the notice of a hearing, and the next time we got together, we were finalizing a subdivision plat. And one of our harshest critics thought it was amazing how we were doing it. But I know that the DRB change, they weren't, we were creating the subdivisions and working with them routinely. And, we knew what had to be done, we knew what had to be looked at, and we had a process, and they didn't. And there wasn't any way, I don't think, for us to create any kind of a guide for them, which I think would, at this point, be the thing. I don't think the subdivisions are necessarily so much of a problem as people trying to figure out how to navigate it at this point.
Right.
So Mike, just to follow up on that, I've been thinking a lot about that because I've heard, people come to the DRB, and the problem is, it seems like they need guidance. They need like a cheat sheet saying, okay, this is how you do it. And on my list of things that the Planning Commission should consider, that was one of them. Yeah. Was kind of working out how to simplify, because Parsh, I agree with you completely, because when I look at the subdivision regulations, if I want to carve off one lot out of 336, I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. It's crazy. So I think that there's some work to be done there. And then I think the other thing is, I think the guidance, the Development Review Board would like guidance from us on how to handle these smaller things. And give them a document that says, okay, if it's under a 10-lot subdivision, these are the things you do, or just simplify the process so it isn't so arduous.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been doing that prior to my tenure on the Planning Commission, because that's sort of what happened, but it was never really in writing.
Right.
And so I think there needs to be a process in place so the DRB goes, oh, okay, it's a 2-lot subdivision? Easy schmeezy.
Well, and I, in all honesty, I remember somebody coming in and I said, hey, this ought to be a piece of cake. And at the next meeting, I had to apologize and back up and say, whoa, after further review, there's a lot of things here that make this is a no-no. It happens.
Yeah,
but
it does. But I just think that having a guidance document would really help this.
I think so, but right now we're dealing with the planning, with the plan, And DeForest's recommendation, I think what DeForest is asking for is covered in that last sentence. Improve efficiency and review in the permitting process, especially for minor subdivisions, which shall be defined. Maybe you can add with the goal of simplifying the process or something simple like that, that just.
Yeah, I mean, that's what that sentence says. And I think DeForest gets the spirit of what we're talking about and just wants, I think her suggested 5 extra words at the end will clarify, and that's fine.
I think she knows what we all know.
Yeah.
Is we have all of this intent, but somebody else wasn't involved in those conversations, and they're trying to figure out what that intent is. And if we can't clearly identify that intent, it can go.
Yeah, on us.
Right. Yeah, because she sat through enough of that stuff to see how that can happen.
Right, but the regulations themselves do need to change. They're outdated and not streamlined, so.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
worth
Oh,
having
yeah.
that.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody can agree upon that.
All right.
What else you got for us, DeForest?
That's it for that chapter.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else, chapter? Sorry, you're running the sheet over there.
What he said.
Well, I have a couple of additions that I added. So in the packet, page or line number 519, I added a sentence at the end of the mixed use. It says, by addressing wastewater capacity for shared or municipal systems, density can be increased and the cost barrier to new development can be lowered.
Like we had a lot of discussions about wastewater and things.
That was something that was brought up months ago that I just now added.
Okay.
Makes sense.
And then you'll see the policies. We had many discussions about how to include policies, whether to include policies. I wanted to get away from them, and we did in most chapters, except based on what the statute requires, I felt like we needed to keep these ones here, so they're in their own section called policies. They're shown differently, and there they are. They're no longer goals or actions, they're just on their own right there.
The policies here are reflecting, like state policy. Is that what you just said?
The state statute requires that we call out certain policies to.
Okay. Looks great then.
Check the box.
Okay. In chapter 2,
I
nothing's
have
changed.
a question here on policies.
Okay.
Mike, you can go first.
I just wanted to point out, if Rika's still listening, D, development shall not result in undue adverse impacts on the character of the town, villages, and hamlets. I think that might right there address part of what she was talking about at the beginning of the night.
I was actually about to go down the same road.
Tell me again, where was that, Mike?
It's we're in land use, it would be 1.4.1 policies, D.
Yeah. D, okay.
And while we're addressing that point, there is, Rika, some language. They call those businesses formula businesses in the bylaws, and it's really only called out under small enterprise, which is a use allowed in certain districts, and it prohibits formula businesses from qualifying as small enterprise. So there is something in there. It's not a real prominent section, but that subject is brought up there.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
That concludes our broadcast day on land use.
8 o'clock, chapter 1's done.
Third time now.
Chapter 2, there are no changes other than what Brian has brought up about asterisks in some places, things like that. But this is the same as what you've seen before.
Yeah, it is awkward to start a sentence.
It's not exactly the same. The formatting is a little bit, the titles and numbers and stuff have changed, and I think I put a box around the statute at the top.
Oh, yeah.
So the content stays the same.
The line numbers might not have been the same, but yes, the content has not changed. So, shall we move on?
Any discussion on?
I have a question.
Go for it.
Are we in the natural resources section?
Yes, we are.
Okay, line 64, goal A, it says maintain ecological function of the region by protecting forest blocks, habitat connectors, and key road crossing locations. I don't know what that line number is now, but.
Same.
Yep, that's right.
My question is, what do you mean by the region?
So I think it's a very vague usage of region. It could apply to the state, New England. It could apply to the Mount Scottney region, or just the surrounding towns. But basically the point is to say that the ecological function is not contained within the town of Weathersfield, and what we do by protecting forest plots and habitat connectors affects the way that the ecosystem works on a more regional basis at any scale.
I think that's hard to carry out without more specific boundaries. Just my personal feeling.
Well, everything that the actions that were prescribed under that are things that we can do within our town, which have benefits beyond the boundaries.
What if that sentence said maintain ecological function of Weathersfield and the region? Because the point of saying like, hey, we need to do our part in the region, just like we hope everybody else is doing their part to have a functional ecosystem. That's a good thing. But also, but if we say, you know, this is good for Weathersfield and this is good for our neighbors, by adding our town name in that, maybe.
I like that. Weathersfield in its place in the region, or something to that effect, the wider area or something. But just to say the region leaves one asking the question, what does that mean?
Okay, I will address that.
We have no control outside of our own town. So what we can do within our town may have consequences in the wider region, good or bad. But I think it's important to put some parameters around it, that we only have control over what we can do in our own town.
But I think what that is referring to is saying that, you know, we might have a forest block that continues, comes into Weathersfield out of Springfield and goes out the other end into Cavendish, and we can only regulate what's within our boundaries, which is what you just said. But what we do within our own boundaries may have an effect on those outside of our boundaries, which are part of the region, the regional landscape.
Exactly.
And maybe that's what you said. Maybe that's what you're saying. Maintain ecological function of the regional location or regional.
I think if we had Weathersfield, and I actually think the vagueness of region is appropriate because there's many scales at which ecosystem function is interconnected. So the vagueness of region, totally fine here. Adding Weathersfield, I think, grounds what we're saying in like, oh, this is our place.
So we could just keep it as it is and add maintain, so it would read maintain ecological function of the region by protecting forest blocks, habitat connectors, and key road crossing locations in Weathersfield. So basically, things that we do in Weathersfield will protect the function of the region.
Yeah.
But it's saying that we're doing stuff in Weathersfield to the benefit of the region.
So we're just adding a word at the end of it. Yeah. Yep.
Yes, thank you, that helps. Line 151, which is objective 1 under goal A, it says reevaluate the agricultural zoning section of the zoning bylaws.
Lost you on that one.
Where are you at?
Section better.
And not inhibiting desired development. So are you saying we're trying to find a balance between preserving agricultural resources and allowing more development?
Where are we?
Okay, so this is in section 2.1.3 soils, and it's the only goal.
It's line 135, right?
Yep. Could you ask your question again? Is it doing what?
I wasn't clear what the objective is. It says reevaluate the agricultural zoning section of the zoning bylaws to ensure it is adequately achieving its purpose and not inhibiting desired development. Are you looking to strike a balance here?
Yeah, so the experience that I've had and the Conservation Commission has had with that bylaw is triggered by some very minor things. It's basically any development within 300 feet of a deer wintering area needs to have, there are exceptions, but it needs to have extra review. It's more time consuming, and a lot of times it's just like if someone wants to put up a shed and it's underneath this bushy pine tree in the middle of their field, that they have to cut it. It says any time that softwood trees have to be cut, then the Conservation Commission's got to review. I think it could be refined to not create such a headache for minor projects, and maybe be expanded upon in other ways to make it more useful for what the real goal is. White-tailed deer population is not necessarily the most important one to be looking at. So I think that bylaw in general, and also the ag zoning soils, like if we're saying we want development in the village district, then the agricultural soil component maybe doesn't need to apply, or at least not in the same way, in those places where we're already saying we want to focus development there. Because most of the Scutney, if we're saying that's where we want development, that's also largely prime ag soils. So we could be more specific about how that bylaw is used. So I think the intention by calling a Planning Commission and Conservation Commission action is to have a discussion between the boards about how that section has been working and not working, and we can address that.
Gotcha. Okay. 254, line 254.
What's the subsection you're in?
Significant scenic resources. It's the second paragraph, starts with Weathersfield, scenic resources are irreplaceable.
Oh, got it, it's line 236 in our packet.
Okay. My only question is, it talks about the Connecticut River National Byway. Is that its correct name? I thought it was a Connecticut River Scenic Byway.
Let me check.
And since we're talking about scenic resources, I think it gets referred to by a number of different names, but if you look up Connecticut River Byway, it's usually Connecticut River Scenic Byway. I couldn't find a reference to a national byway. Just a curiosity question.
Well, your line goes on to say it's the only one that received national recognition, so.
Scenic byway.
I'll double check on that.
Okay. And the last question in this chapter was just a little bit further down. It says the designation. We're talking about scenic highway designation on 131.
Yep.
And it says the designation should be continued to Golden Ridge Road, and I'm just curious why.
I thought we had a long discussion about that and wanted that removed because it is such a long stretch. That was
I apologize if I missed the discussion.
No, the fact that it's still in here is fogging my memory now and questioning why it's in here still.
I think the discussion that I remember, we were trying to figure out what this means, like what a scenic road is, and we Googled around and found, maybe Ryan might even talk to somebody and found that it means nothing other than it's a tourist trap.
It means nothing. It just gives a label to something
That a tourist might drive down.
and say, oh, let's take the scenic byway because it's beautiful.
The only regulatory impacts are for federal money.
Funding.
Yeah, federal funding
Right.
projects.
We should probably cite that in there, so it doesn't get interpreted that this could become a bylaw that could be restricting,
Well, you keep going, the scenic highway doesn't do anything. It's just
Right,
a
but
name. It's just a name for tourists.
well, kind of how we had goals in there too of protecting different scenic resources and stuff, that it could be perceived that way. I would just like to see a way of some sort of mechanism to protect property owners' rights and things.
In here.
That's all, or at least notify them, especially after the discussions we had about the last scenic byways, or, corridors and stuff. And this could ride right on the shoulders of this.
Yeah. Chapter 2, yeah.
Yeah, I could do either way here.
I hear both sides of it.
Did we do enough sleuthing to know whether this is a thing we can affect?
I would imagine it would be a request to a state or federal body and
Right.
see if anything happens.
And then let the paperwork.
Yeah, I know.
15 years later.
Maybe, yeah, anyway, I'm not,
Yeah, I would suggest we strike that, just get it out.
feels simple.
Yeah,
feels-
I mean, the sentence reads like it's an action, but we don't have it as an action. Yeah, so if it's not something that we want to do, we should say that we want to do it. Strike it?
That'd be my vote.
The fact that we already have some scenic highway means that if somebody's like, I don't know if you can punch in your GPS that you want to take the scenic highway, we're gonna get them.
It's a project that's not real exciting to me.
Yeah, great.
On the list of things you want to do.
Right. I forget what, DeForest, your question was about that.
I was just asking why you felt it should be continued to Golden Ridge Road.
That was a holdover from the old
Yeah.
plan.
Okay, so we don't.
We don't care enough.
And
We did talk about it for a long
That's
time.
all I have on that on that chapter.
I think we lost most of the meeting to that.
2 down,
discussion
10 to go.
Yeah, if only we hadn't talked about it in 4 other meetings.
Sure, right. Come on, one more hashing of it. All right, economic chapter?
Just one, line 22 at the very beginning under 3.1, present economic conditions. A 2012 inventory of businesses in town shows blah, blah, blah. Do we have any plans to update that inventory?
We do have an action item, I don't know if it's in this section or not, but, to update the data that's used in the town plan. That is similar.
Okay, I'm good with that.
We hold out with that 20-year data research. All right. Any other discussions in economic? I know this is kind of where Rika's comments came up earlier in the beginning.
I'm
This-
trying to find where it's referenced to.
Yeah.
Because
Were you thinking about adaptive reuse?
I,
That was in another section.
that was in another section, but I think that somewhere's in here talked about form-based businesses, or am I confusing that?
thing I remember taking away from this whole discussion was the one person that said in a meeting, "Thou shalt not have McDonald's."
Yeah, and that came from one person.
And you know what, people argue both sides of that because, so if you have a McDonald's, it provides local employment, you know, and so you can argue it adds to the tax base. I mean, I'm not a McDonald's shopper,
Well, there is another caveat to all of this. In the state of Vermont, we have an E-court. And if somebody comes in and applies for a permit and you've actually said, nope, we don't allow that here. When it gets to the E-court, the E-court's probably gonna give them a permit. And you're not gonna have a whole lot of say on it. But, and that's, I'm not.
I think the only thing you could possibly do is like if it's in a village district, if it's over some defined square footage, it's not in character with existing village concept.
Right.
So it's like an 8,000 or 10,000 square foot footprint, it just doesn't fit.
And there's the other argument that's always gonna come up in this, is if you're putting in a formula business, like a McDonald's or a Starbucks, huh?
Dunkin' Donuts.
Infrastructure, you don't have the infrastructure for that type of a business. Water, wastewater, we don't have it. So those, does that mean it would stop them? I don't know. Depends on what the requirement would be for that facility.
There's just still some potential for the, shared septic or something with them. They might conceivably be able to buy another parcel of land and come up with a way of doing it, so.
They might.
So,
We do have somewhere that form business language. It's somewhere. I'm trying to scan through it and see if I can find it. I don't know if it's here or not. I do remember it.
The existing town plan, they talk about, small retail business, but they don't define small. So.
I think,
footage or something.
I think what it did was put that in the small enterprise category, and then it had a list of like 10 or 11 things that you couldn't do, or that you could do, but if it wasn't in the list, then it meant you couldn't do it.
Right, so there's nothing in the old town plan or in this town plan that uses the word formula business. We do in the bylaws say that a formula business cannot qualify as a small enterprise.
Right.
So we do have formula businesses like Dunkin' Donuts and a Subway in the highway commercial district under other uses, but it can't be a small enterprise, which is a use that's allowed in the village.
Right?
Well, because I go back to Mike's point where, say, if Starbucks does come in and they want to put it in the village, if they meet the requirements architecturally, signage, and lighting, I think we couldn't keep them out, and we probably shouldn't keep them out. I mean, I understand Rita's point about having those types of businesses, but I also think some of those are an economic driver.
Well, let alone, put economic driver aside. One of my great pains in life is when I drive by McDonald's and there's like 10 old people in there talking to each other. It's like, damn, that's beautiful. Like, I don't go to McDonald's, but I see people in there.
Yeah.
Here's this community gathering space that I would normally poo-poo, and then I see it and I'm like, oh, okay.
And they
Change my
ruined
opinion on that.
And they ruined it in Springfield.
Oh, yeah?
When they redid the building, they redid the building and they ruined it.
A way that I think of when, we're talking about the different formula businesses and stuff is, I look at Manchester, Vermont, and they have McDonald's, all that stuff down there, but when you're going downtown, you're not hit with the 45-foot golden arches down there. You go up to Burlington, and if you want to go to McDonald's, you better plan on going into it, because there's no drive-throughs in it. So there's ways of working around it, but I think a general prohibition of any type of business, we have no place to be able to do that.
And yes, Rika, could you just expand upon your formula-based, you mentioned Starbucks and maybe McDonald's. Would you just kind of fill us in a little more of your thinking on that so I don't miss your point this evening?
Sure. Let's see, yes, I did click myself on. My concern is, well, in a way, I could say, yes, it's aesthetic, but it's also about, I was just really hit with how sort of coarsely Weathersfield was handled in the 50s. How what the feds did with the interstate at one end of town, biting a big chunk off of Scuffy and changing that village, and then at the other end of town, doing something equally, or if not worse, and destroying the village there. And I thought, we've sort of been limping along happily enough since then. I mean, people have recovered and so forth, but do we want to sort of project what this town could become? I mean, isn't that a little bit what the town plan is? And in that case, do we want to set some guidelines? I mean, if we could say, for example, that we can prohibit stuff on the ridge lines, why can't we prohibit some other things? If we have the right or the power to prohibit one kind of thing, why don't we have the power to prohibit something that maybe something else would be more valuable or would contribute something greater to the town than maybe just the economic resources input that it would contribute. So, does that make sense?
I think I understand what you're saying. I just was trying to clarify you know, when you said, you know, you mentioned some of the national brands, and
yes, I mean, I'm basically thinking of, you know, the big box stores. Do we have anything that says you can't have a big box store move in?
Act 250 is gonna take care of most of that.
And so's your lack of infrastructure.
Never mind your sales tax.
Yeah. and-
Right next to New Hampshire.
So, I mean, the lack of infrastructure is gonna probably eliminate a lot of those larger, like a BJ's and a high volume place. I mean, I wish we could have a general store in Perkinsville where we can get breakfast and a cup of coffee, but you know, there's not the infrastructure there for sewer or water to support something like that.
A grocery store.
Or a
would be
grocery
nice.
store where absolutely. So I mean, I think we have to encourage different types of business and see what comes over the threshold. And we might not like the fact that someone takes over the Perkinsville store and figures out how to make the septic and the water work. And maybe it's not quite the type of business we want, but it generates some activities and gives a place for people to gather. I don't know. It's hard to quantify some of those things, and I hear your comment about where we said we want to prohibit things on the ridge lines, and that to me is a little bit of a different argument. It's more of a visual and aesthetic argument.
Of course, I realized that as soon as I said it, that, whoops, you don't have to see me looking all green.
There you go. We see it.
And that, you know, it was, well, that we have the power, we do have the power to prohibit some things. I mean, I was getting the impression that, oh no, there isn't that much we can't sort of prohibit. But, and I can't remember whether this was a conversation, I think this was a conversation I had well before this meeting. But if I'm repeating myself, say so. About chain stores and things like that, which, I mean, I would assume that we would want to encourage certainly more Vermont-based, if not locally based kind of stuff. Do we have the means to throw some sand in the gears if somebody comes, you know, what is it, dollar store buys, what's their name, Strobels. Then what do we do?
I think you're in a tough spot there. I think you're in a tough spot.
Ryan, you had?
Yeah, so I think if it's the Strobel's property specifically, that's in the highway commercial district, and that's sort of where we're saying we want those types of stores, gas stations or whatever. But we talk about trying to protect the character of the villages and the hamlets. And so something, if it becomes, it's not in our town plan right now, it's not a priority project, but if it's something that becomes an issue or a higher priority in the future, the way that other towns balance the Euclidean zoning and form-based code without having to redo the whole system is by implementing a design review district, where basically you say in those hamlets or villages, we're gonna, you know, you still have your list of uses and whatever they're allowed, but you have some control over the design, the way that they look, basically. Like parking maybe has to be behind the building instead of in front of the building, things like that. So there are design review districts.
Yes, great.
that
I think exactly.
that could be explored in the future if it's needed.
But my point is, you can't prohibit the dollar store.
Right.
You can't say no dollar, you can't.
But her concern is the character of the area and things like that. And so that's one thing
You
that.
should say no dollar stores in the village because it's not consistent, but you can't eliminate and say no
I don't know if
dollar
you can get
store.
away with it. You think you can get away with it? I don't think you.
If you allow them in some other zone, if you say, oh, yeah, highway commercial, have it.
So what's the difference
That's
between
right.
a
That's
dollar
right.
store
Howard's
and a
right.
general and a general store? They sell the same stuff. So I just
No,
worry.
the general store, so.
See, that's the problem I have with the formula stores, is that 100% of the stuff they sell comes from out of town or out of state. So all you get is property tax and a couple of low-paid jobs. It does nothing to support the local economy. And that's, you know, general store, that's a different, you know, they buy local produce, they buy, you know, maple syrup, whatever. But
I would say that the general consensus is we'd much rather have a Vermont Country Store than a Dollar General, but to use Mike's famous quote, unintended consequences here, what if we put up so many regulations, all of a sudden Weathersfield becomes more of a gated community? We already have that reputation. So we want to make Weathersfield welcoming, you know?
I think we should move on.
Yeah, fair enough.
If that's okay.
Okay, moving along then. Good discussion though, and I really do appreciate your points on this, Rika, because having the feedback on stuff is, it's nice. Because too often we operate in a vacuum.
So housing, there's no changes in this draft to the content.
Yeah.
We've been over housing, I think.
That horse is pretty dead.
Well,
Only from our perspective, though.
only from our perspective. Thank you.
Gonna change as soon as the legislature closes.
Yeah.
Let's finish
We
this
finish the
before.
town plan first.
Gotta make it before town meeting day, okay?
Oh my
Okay.
God.
DeForest or Rika, do you have comments on the housing chapter? Hearing none, moving along.
I do not, sorry, I was on the wrong screen, couldn't find.
That's
So
okay.
same, but I didn't have anything that came to mind.
Okay.
But I do on utilities and facilities.
Wow, skating not through on the housing.
I'll just mention on the utilities facilities, I changed, or I added a section, it's line 382, for the Weathersfield School. The statute relating to this chapter specifically called out educational facilities in terms of you have to have a plan for future development. So I reached back out to BJ and Brian Martez, and this is basically what they told me. Their priorities are about, I guess I added a little bit of language about what's existing in terms of facilities, and then that their priorities are about security, specifically locks and a generator is what they told me, and then parking is an issue, and they told me that 50 to 100, 50 would be nice, 100 is what they're sort of having in their head in terms of future expansions. So there's not a real specific action to that other than it's the school board's action to explore. That's just one of the needs that they brought up.
More parking.
They have solar on top of that, right?
Yes.
So could I jump in?
Absolutely.
In utilities and facilities?
Absolutely.
Okay. 5.1.3 water supply goals and actions. These are all addressed to the water district. And my question is, do we have the authority to tell the water district what to do? Are you telling them to repair and replace water main lines and address system leaks, expand storage capacity, so forth and so on? If they're a separate municipality, does the town of Weathersfield have the authority to direct the activities of the water district?
I don't know for sure the answer to that, but these aren't also necessarily legal requirements that they have to follow. These are actions that they brought to me and said that these are the things that they're working on, so I just sort of reiterated it, saying that those are the things that they're planning on working on.
And it does say,
We should say that instead of turning them into goals and actions for the town to do.
but it also does say, I'm not sure on your copy, DeForest, it says AWD action, but on our copy it says the Scotty Water District action.
It does not say that on mine.
Yeah, sorry.
It does here.
5.1.3.
Yep. Yeah, on our copy it says under goals and those repair and replace, it says the Scotty Water District action for 1, 2, 3, and 4.
The other thing I'll add is in the introduction that has not yet been written, I plan to go over sort of the layout of the goals and actions and how they're intended to work, where I can include that they're not legal requirements. These are to-do list items that have been agreed upon between the responsible parties who are assigned to them.
I would rather it just be a list of things that the water district is committing to do, rather than present them as, in this manner, as Brian said, they're things that the water company needs to do, but the town doesn't have the authority to tell them to do it. That was just my question.
I think that's Ryan's point of writing the introduction, saying that. I think that's what your intention is in the introduction, Ryan.
Right, because none of the actions are telling anybody what to do. They're what the boards have agreed on as projects that they're intending to do down the road over the next 8 years.
As long as they're couched in that framework, I'm okay with that.
Well, to Forrest's point, maybe just on line 73 in the goal statement, the Ascutney Water District plans to stabilize the system's physical infrastructure. That could just take care of it in a quick little sentence. That way it really kind of focuses on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I just don't want it to look like something that the town is directing them to do.
Okay.
Again, I don't know what the number is now, but I have it as line 227. The property where the town highway garage is located also houses a 500 kW solar field, and in parentheses it says describe arrangement.
Oh.
Is that something that was forgotten, or?
Yeah, that's a note that shouldn't be there.
I don't see it on that. Oh, there it is. Yeah, I see it. Line 215.
215?
Yeah.
Page 53.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that needs to come out.
That was just supposed to be a reminder to me. I was supposed to meet with Brandon and get some more details about that, but that didn't pan out.
Okay. Further down, what's for me is line 260 to 262. It's an action statement number 4. Coordinate with utility providers such as Green Mountain Power and Belco to ensure that infrastructure planning aligns with long-term community goals for sustainability, blah, 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 blah. Do we know what GMP's and Belco's long-range plans are? Or is that something that we would pursue as part of this action statement?
Is that gone now?
I think so.
Oh, there it is.
Huh?
273 now.
I have 230.
Yeah, 239 is where I'm seeing.
239.
239. Again, DeForest, I think what you're not seeing, unfortunately, is in front of those, on the one you just read, it says town manager and select board actions.
So the action is to coordinate with those bodies, establish a new discussion about it, and have that conversation.
It's under 5.4.1 electric utilities goal and action.
Right.
Yes.
So no, we don't know what the long-term plan is, why the goal is to coordinate with those providers to discuss it.
Okay, very good. I only have one or two more. Number 328, under highway garage, action item number 2.
307 in our packet.
Improve town highway garage with energy upgrades, heating system improvements, installation of an emergency generator. The only reason I'm saying this is because you have a note down below that says no installation and heating upgrades have already been completed. Well, the installation of the emergency generator has been completed as well.
Okay. What does the board think we should do with this? Remove the note and the emergency generator, or add the generator to that note?
No, I would just take it out. If it's done, it's done.
Okay. I don't remember that note being there. Okay, I'll just remove that.
That's the only reason I brought it up, because you already had made a note there that said stuff had already been done, and
Yeah, that
it's already been
generator.
done too.
That generator's one of them.
Perfect. That's a good catch.
And my last comment, that's as far as I got today reading. I'm sorry, I apologize, I have not got through the whole plan yet. I'm working on it. But my last comment was under the 1879 schoolhouse, 5.6.4. The schoolhouse hosts the Weathersfield food shelf and provides rentable space for public functions. Just a note, it's the only handicap accessible public meeting space in Perkinsville. I thought it would be important to throw that in.
That's a good point.
I never thought about it, it's a good point.
Yeah, very much so.
Because the food shelf used to be in the basement of the church, which was anything but accessible. And when we did the renovations at the schoolhouse, we made the food shelf and that public meeting space accessible, which is it's the only accessible public meeting space. I won't say on that side of town because I believe Mr. Wyman's building in Downers is accessible. Has a room that well, I don't know if he rents it out anymore, but Carl Wyman used to allow one of the rooms in his building there at Downers for public functions, and that building is accessible. So I won't say that the schoolhouse is the only handicap accessible public meeting space on that side of town, but it certainly holds true for the village of Perkinsville.
Well, it's the only town-owned building.
Town owned.
And you're right. That's a good point.
Just thought we could throw that little nugget in there. That's it, that's as far as I got. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. How long before we're gonna have the rest of it?
Are you asking me?
Yes, ma'am.
It'll take a couple more days for me to get through that many chapters at this level of thoroughness.
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
Well,
to
we got
get-
about halfway, almost. So,
It's almost reaching our,
yeah.
It is, not that anybody's counting.
8:38.
Well, I mean, we got through our stuff here, and I mean, we could wrap up this, Mr. Chairman, we could wrap up this topic for tonight.
I'm fine with that if the rest of the board members are fine with that.
And
The comments that we've
then
done.
we could be ready to go through, well, Ryan, where are we at with this? We have to get through it all tonight?
I don't think there's much more to get through unless you have comments and changes. I mean, everything else is unchanged since what you've already seen and voted on, except for energy, which added 1 cent or 1 line under energy concerns.
I'm just gonna add that the extra set of eyes we're getting from DeForest is being very helpful.
Yeah, I think it's worth, we're gonna have it here again before the hearing. Because I still have the intro to put together, I still have the remainder of the last chapter. In my opinion, it seems simple enough to get through what we have in the packet. It'll take 10, 15 minutes, depending on.
I'm willing to take the time to finish up the packet and do a quick high-level overview, one last glance over it, then when we get notes that come back from anybody else that happens to see it online, and Ryan has his quick changes, and we can really just focus on what needs to be done, to put us one step closer to getting this project completed.
Yeah, if we go through it now, then it'll just be comments from the public, and any other little catches.
I will do us all a favor though and say we gotta wrap it up by 9 o'clock at that point.
let's go.
What's the
got
next
20
chapter?
minutes.
What are we on? We just did, utilities.
So we're going to chapter
Transportation
6.
now? Transportation, again, it's unchanged. We've seen this one several times without changing it. Just formatting. It looks like there's a section, like page 67 in the packet, it looks like it's kind of a lighter gray than black. I don't know what's going on there.
Ryan captured my line 84 about the airport under transportation. It was
Right, yeah, that'll show it.
Line 84.
6.3.1, page 66.
And you have 2 maps to add.
Yeah, these maps, so these are things that Ray had add as appendices, but, so I have the V-Trans highway map. I couldn't get a copy of the road mileage certificate. I don't know if that's necessary to include in here or not, but, I asked Ray to send me a copy if he has one. I couldn't get it online, or I couldn't figure it out how to. Not a current one. Alright, anything else in transportation? Seen that a bunch of times. Education, again, unchanged. Yep, same thing.
I have nothing.
Chapter 8, energy, the change that I had talked about is under energy concerns. That's page 79, line 162. It reads, the town and state's land use planning goal to maintain the traditional historic New England development pattern of compact, dense, mixed-use villages separated by rural countryside is, in part, a plan to consolidate energy demand. Sprawl is not only a concern related to economic development and rural character, but also results in energy inefficiencies. State statute says we need to talk in this section about how our energy concerns will be addressed through land use planning goals. So that is that. Good?
Yep.
Chapter 9, flood resiliency. This is basically, or it is exactly what Howard had presented. The changes that we've gone over before are just the goals and actions were reformatted. We went over those at the last meeting. Who got assigned to each item.
I am good with all this.
Okay, chapter 10, standards for section 248 proceedings. This is all language that we took out of the energy chapter to keep that more on topic, and then this is specific to those concerns with previous energy chapter amendments last year.
We went over this not too long, a couple of meetings ago, right?
We have gone over it, yeah.
Caught one thing, line 13, right after section 248, you just need a space between 248 and is.
Yes. Wow.
I don't know how I thought
Minute
that.
details. Okay, that was chapter 10.
Don't know how you missed that.
That's good. I missed that.
That was my one for tonight.
So this includes renewable energy as well as wireless communications. They're both lumped in there. And there's no goals and actions under this, as this is intended to direct the PUC and not necessarily the town. All of those things are under the energy chapter. It includes the towers and ridgelines map. This is a shrunk down version of the same thing, which is a full-size version, which will be an appendix. Although I just caught, it says 2025, I need to change that to 2026.
So Brian, I was thinking about the title for this map,
Yeah.
and maybe we should just say Ridgeline map, because you give the map legend and it tells about Ridgeline's existing towers, because we may want to use this for, the siting of wind generation and also solar panels. So I wonder if we just change the title to Ridgeline maps.
And just show the ridgelines.
And because you got a great legend here that talks about all that stuff.
I agree, and the other thing is, I don't know if the tower site on the Gateway Mountain Campground. No, that wasn't what I was going to say.
Is there something that counts a technical cell tower or something like that, though, right? Is that more just like a shortwave thing, or?
I don't remember. There's something weird about it. Let's just take them off. That makes it easy for me.
And is there, sorry to ask this question now, but was there a methodology for creating the ridgeline polygons?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
great.
it was.
Nope, I don't even need to hear about it.
Okay.
Nice move.
Google Street View and field confirmation.
Great.
Okay, chapter 11 is what was removed from the Natural Scenic Historic Resources section. That is a lot of listing and describing of resources in town, and not so much planning. And so we took it out just to keep that chapter more concise, and then we retain all of the documentation of these resources as it is. So I think this is one that in the future could be cleaned up quite a bit, but yeah, it's not palatable right now.
Before we get farther along, I have two quick comments. These are unrelated to this subject at hand, unfortunately, but before we move on, back to the ridgeline map. The reason I asked if there's a methodology is that I wonder if somebody's like, so how'd you come up with that? It might be hard to be like, well, Google Street View and field check-in, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know what a good answer to that is. The other thing is, when scrolling through the packet, I wonder if next time, if we're gonna keep looking at big maps, if they should be sort of like an appendix, like a separate thing.
Yeah.
Would it
Because
be if I had
I
a
can
link
only
to
get-
it and you could click on the link on the iPad, because those are slowing everything down?
yeah, because I can't get past page like 80 whatever, and I'm looking down the way and seeing similar issues.
On the maps, I've added blurbs to like the current and the future land use map. I can add a blurb directly on this map that just sort of gives a brief explanation of where it came from.
I think my sort of question on that was more like, will your polygons hold up in a court of law?
We have to describe it by elevation and all kinds of.
Right.
There's a whole list of criteria for that I have somewhere.
Oh, great. So we can do that later. Oh, that'll be a fun
So
chat.
should I add a blurb or should I not?
About,
Why these are delineated as they are?
yeah, you have to.
Okay.
You gotta come up with some kind of, I mean, I have a blurb somewhere about how you define ridge lines.
And there's criteria for defining a ridge line?
Okay.
I might like.
So should I say literally how we came up with this map, or do you have language that we should say this is how?
Well, if we do that, you may change your map.
Yeah.
Maybe we should see those criteria and make a map with the criteria that you've got.
We
And
might
then,
not have time.
All right.
oh, sure. No, I'm just saying, like,
Future
that's the
discussion
future
under scenic
project. Yeah, great.
resources
Let's
and
do
stuff
that
like
later.
For
I
now,
think
you
that's
just
a
use it
future
as
layers
a.
thing.
Great.
Okay.
Sounds fun.
See, one of the things that you came up with probably on that too, is that not all ridge lines, some of them are just hilltops. That because of their location in town are visible from a tremendous
Right.
distance.
So
it's
maybe
not
it shouldn't be a ridge top,
necessarily ridge line.
maybe it should be like a view shed map or like that.
Yeah.
I don't know what. Does it need to be a ridge line?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's just leave it the way it is.
I'll add a little thing in there, and then you can tell me whether we should keep it or not.
Prominent ridge line map. How about that? Anyway, moving on. Past my bedtime.
I'll write it down.
You don't have to write it.
That was amazing. Prominent
Write it down.
ridge line.
All right, moving on to chapter 12, project responsibility of party.
Ridge line view.
I can't even get to this one, so.
Yeah, I can't get that far.
Okay, I'll pull it up on the screen if it's helpful.
Correct.
Come on.
It will be.
Oh, wait.
I'm going real slow when you get to it.
You're going real slow.
Oh,
Yeah,
could
see?
you shrink the
Nothing you can do.
comments?
A little bit.
Okay. This is just to give you an idea about how I'm trying to organize these things. So as we saw at a previous meeting, I took all of the actions, put them in Excel, and sorted them by responsible party and different things and tried to organize them. And I was able to do that with the planning commission ones and basically lumped what were probably 25 different action items into like 6 or 7 projects. And so this is sort of kind of like an appendix. I call it a chapter, but it doesn't have to be.
That's gonna lead into strategic planning pretty much for us, right?
Yeah, this is basically should dictate that conversation.
Okay.
And so there's a project. So it'll be organized by responsible party, planning commission, project, and this project is review and update the zoning and subdivision regulations in districts. So it's pretty broad. And then there's a checklist of, these are the 3 actions that are listed in different sections in the town plan. These 2 are in the land use chapter, as they're titled number 1. Number 5 is the utilities and facilities chapter, I'm pretty sure. So anyway, that's how those sort of came together. I think this is a lot more useful than just the actions. If you were looking for what should the board be working on, this is the section you can go to. If you were more interested in learning about a specific aspect of the town, you would go to that chapter and you might see where those actions come in and why they're there. They're under the goals, but should just consolidate sort of the, it should make the town plan more actionable by having these sort of organized this way. So the second project is cultivate the land use rural economy. It has projects, this is the natural scenic historic resources section, amend local laws to require permit conditions for development, which compromise the size of forest blocks. So that's where all of these actions come out. You can go through that. I don't think this one's on the town website yet. I guess the question I should ask is, do you like it as a chapter? Should it be an appendix? I don't really have any formal appendices yet, other than these maps will, I think, be included that way.
I think,
Oh, go ahead.
I think it should be an appendix.
Same.
Just because
Yeah.
it's not really part of the plan, it's just taking things from the plan and saying, okay, here's an action item list.
Seeing stuff
More of a
again in
tool
a different
for
way.
us.
So how about the PUC review chapter and the natural scenic historic resources inventory chapter, those two last ones? Do you think those should be appendices as well?
They're not required by state statute, right?
Right. I just didn't know where the PUC is going to be using the town plan to review if it felt a little bit more legit if we called it a chapter
It's
rather
gotta
than
be,
an
it's
appendix.
gotta be a chapter.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
So then we'd have those two things as chapters, and then we just have that one text appendix, unless we wanted to call it a chapter.
I would keep it an appendix.
Okay.
That's just me.
PUC review, natural scenic historic resources inventory chapters, and then this action items is the appendix. Got it. Maps, we'll just real quick take a look at them. You've seen them a bunch of times before. I added a blurb about what it is. That is my first take at anything, just sort of a brain dump. Feel free to
Did we
make comments.
address the colors for people to be able to see the differences in the different greens? Because I remember that was brought up.
Yeah, you tell me. So I
I'm colorblind at this point.
okay, so what I ended up doing was putting sort of big dark X's on the deeded development restrictions. Maybe zoom in better.
So I'll just get up and look.
How up to date is your is your deeded restrictions layer?
It's a little bit more updated than the state's default layer.
Great, still missing a few.
Yeah, which is fine. There's going to be more that come up in the next year.
Oh, yeah,
or two.
totally. No, that's fine.
This is what we got.
Okay, cool. There's at least a better way of being able to see it.
Yeah, I think it should stand out a little bit better, but I wanted to keep with the sort of color themes that sort of, if you take a step back and look more broadly, you can sort of.
Yeah, it really helps to see the amount of concern going.
Especially as you zoom in, you can see it a lot better, so I'm happy with that.
And these are going to be ledger-sized maps, inherently, so you should be able to zoom in on them eventually and see them clearly, and then if you had them printed off full size. We could include ledger size, if we had a document that was the town plan, like a booklet, we could include ledger-sized maps like this folded over in that. So I think
We should have it on.
it fits, but it's big enough that you can see it. So there's some language that I added to what the future land use map is. And then I'll show you, this is the planning map. That's not an official regulatory map. It's not required by statute, but it incorporates basically all the things that we've discussed. And it's for planning purposes. It's for the planning commission, it's for the select board. It's not necessarily the most intuitive to the general public, but it's in there for the people using it.
Covers all those wonderful overlays we've been asking for.
Yes. And then the next map. This one was one that Joe had asked for a while ago, which was just the zoning districts overlaid on top of that map. I didn't spend a whole lot of time on the coloring and symbology and stuff, but there's a key down at the bottom to show you what districts are what. And you can see just sort of the lack of alignment between the zoning districts and the land use categories and things like that.
How about that?
So that was just for Joe.
Thank you.
Just for fun. But that will go in the town plan. That was just for the board. Okay, so I updated the date on this version.
Well, that was a good high-level overview on all of that. It is 4 minutes of 9 o'clock. Any others we gotta touch on real quick?
I'll just mention that the remaining maps are the regional commissions. Some of them are state requirements, some of them aren't. We're still waiting on a couple. The utilities and facilities one that shows like the uses across town, still waiting on that. And then per Ray's suggestion, this is the most up-to-date town highway map. Awesome, that's it.
Well, that's a really good overview of all of this. Great work, everyone. Great work, Ryan. Really appreciate all the input on this, and we are so close to getting this done. Striking strategic planning for future projects. Everybody in agreement with that?
Yep.
All right, cool.
Can I just say one thing?
Oh, absolutely.
I'm so impressed with those maps. I wish it was something that we could do like as a presentation, you know. The maps are beautiful to look at, but I think also it just gives so many, it's like, you know, on a microscope where you turn and look through a different lens and you go, I never looked at it that way before. I think people in town would find that interesting.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do a presentation on the maps at the select board or elsewhere. That would be fun.
Think about it.
Discussion for future items for agendas.
Do you want the strategic planning on it for next meeting? Or should we only have the town plan?
Yeah, town plan, that's it, nothing else.
Yeah.
Oh, we need minutes.
Minutes
and comments and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
We definitely need to get this thing done.
Question on how we should update the documents on the website. We obviously had that issue between the different versions of things. Should I take them off the website? Should I keep the ones that are in the packet on the website? Before it was, these are the ones that the board had already voted and said this is good. So the packet was just sort of new changes that it created.
I think just what's going to be in the packet for the next meeting.
Okay, so
I would get rid of the link.
just take it off.
Yeah, I just think it adds to, well, if there's a slight change, then
Yeah.
it's really hard to control.
Yeah. Okay. So just take. Should I take them off the website?
I think, unless they're really
out
well
there
labeled.
under the planning commission, they're available, they're not, you just gotta dig for them, but they're there.
Can I jump into this conversation? You have directed the select board members to start reading these chapters in advance of your public hearing. There's got to be something for us to read, or else we're not gonna be prepared and you're gonna be upset. So I don't wanna see you take them off the website when you want us to read them ahead of time.
So
Tonight was frustrating enough.
Maybe when they're posted on the website, have the dates that they were modified on as the file name or something like that. So we can be like, which version are you looking at, which file, which upload, something like that, or maybe subfolders or something.
A revision number or a revision date or
I
something.
mean,
Well,
what
so
we did
identifying-
just now worked fine.
Yeah, I think it seems like what I should do is just anytime that there's an updated one in the in the packet or whatever, I'll just update it on the website, proposed or otherwise. I had intended to only have clean copies on the website, but I'll just update them as we update them. That's fine.
Keep them the same.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know what that means, but it's fine with me.
that works.
Whatever he said.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I agree.
Really generic
Right,
question, Ryan. When this whole thing is done, is the whole town plan gonna be searchable by subject? So somebody that's got a question about ridgeline can just go in and type in ridgeline and it'll bring you to that section of the
Yeah.
plan, or?
I think you should be able to do Control F and find words like that, and then if I assume there'll be a table of contents, and that'll also be clickable.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when are you gonna be giving the computer seminar on?
Yeah, what about the paper copy?
Control
The
F,
paper
whatever.
copy.
Whatever
You don't know Control F, but you gotta know Control F.
It's true. Yeah, control.
So I have one question, is 16th President's Day, is that a legal holiday?
We were meeting on the Tuesday instead of the Monday. That was what we had agreed on at the last meeting.
Yeah. if you
Nobody
come to
told
meetings, you might
me.
know.
Nobody told me, is that why I don't know?
I just
You weren't
wondered.
here.
All
right, I'm gonna dial
You
in.
just put the Tuesday night to Monday night.
17.
I didn't remember, so thanks for bringing it up, Brian.
Me either, Brian. I didn't remember either.
All right, any other business that can legally be discussed? We kind of branched into that pretty quickly.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Thank you, online people.
The time is 9:02, the meeting is over. Thank you, everyone, I do appreciate it.
Strategic planning, sleep.
You can lie it all night?
No, I think I'll make it.
You okay?
I haven't, oh yeah. Just tired. Tired.
Oh, man, me too.
I hate when a day starts out really productive and then it turns into like just a bunch of crap. Not this.
Like every other Monday? Oh, no.
Yeah, like every other Monday. No, I had to order a part, and I go to order the part, and it's discontinued, and you can't find it anywhere. So now I've got to do all this research to figure out what I'm gonna get to replace this part, and who am I gonna get it from, and what's it gonna cost? And what are the things that will change if I go with that part? You know? Yeah.
No, I don't, you're making me.
3.5 hours, I think?
You're making me upset just talking here